With one insurrection attempt foiled, Capitol Police have been warned of violence as Biden's inauguration gets a little bit closer. So now, this happened on a private call Monday night. The new leaders of the Capitol Police, make note of that, new leaders, because old leaders kind of sucked. They told House Democrats they were closely monitoring 3 separate plans that could pose serious threats to members of Congress as Washington prepares for Biden's inauguration on January 20th. So now, HuffPost explains, quote, right-wing militants are planning the largest armed protest to ever take place on American soil in the coming days in Washington. Great. They're also planning to protest the killing of QAnon conspiracy theorist Ashley Babbitt. So now Ashley Babbitt, of course, was shot in the neck during this little coup, this little insurrection. She ended up being shot while trying to get into the speaker's lobby during the riot. So fun times, right? So look, having this as an armed protest, okay, not a good idea. Now, if you want to protest, that's fine. That's the First Amendment. That's your rights. Okay. You want to talk. You want to walk around the Capitol with guns. I mean, technically, yes, that is also your right. But it's probably not a good idea, bro. Especially considering what had happened before. It's basically a powder keg, and having all these people around with guns is a recipe for disaster. So I'm actually really, really worried about this. Okay, especially considering the other plans that are allegedly in the works by members of the far right. Another demonstration, which 3 members said was by far the most concerning plot, would involve insurrectionists forming a perimeter around the Capitol, the White House, and the Supreme Court. So now, with the perimeter around the White House, I guess is allegedly supposed to be to protect Donald Trump and also to prevent the court from getting into session. But then also, where it gets even more dangerous and insane, it would block Democrats from entering the Capitol building, perhaps even killing them, so that Republicans could take control of the government. Now, obviously, something like that you would think would have help from the inside. And there's certainly rumors about that as well. But look, I mean, it's pretty obvious that that shit right there, that's a coup, straight up coup. And again, this time, unlike last time, there would be more guns involved. Not good. And the last one, it's not as if people during the last riot and coup attempt were unarmed. No. I mean, there were people that were killed with American flagpoles, right, or a spear. And then there was bombs that were found, 2 explosive devices were found and disarmed. And also there's a cooler full of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, like it's fucking Fallujah. Okay, this is not good. That's actually scary as fuck. And so members of Congress, the ones who spoke with HuffPost anyway on Monday night, were obviously extremely concerned by the call. In fact, one member said, quote, "It was pretty overwhelming." Well, yeah. So now let's be clear. Okay, I want to clear something up just for a little bit of clarity purposes. All right. Now, I do want Congress to be afraid of the American people, but not like this. This is not what I'm looking for. Okay. And so that's kind of the difference between us and the right wing, the far right. So the left, we should threaten their jobs, right? Hey, serve us or we will replace you with someone who will. Don't take corporate money or else we will replace you with somebody who doesn't take corporate money and serves our own interests. That's the left position, or it should be the left position, right? We threaten their jobs. The right wing threatens their lives. And I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. One of the tenets of extreme conservatism, of course, is violence. Might equals right. Survival of the fittest, social Darwinism, we've seen it 1,000 times. And in this case, attempted violent overthrow to install a proto-fascist. So, look, I believe in democracy. I think we need more democracy in this country. I don't think we have enough democracy in this country. Well, we need to get rid of gerrymandering, the Electoral College, two-party duopoly. We need to move to a multi-party parliamentary system, ranked choice voting. Hell, we could even get rid of the Senate and replace that with, just a House of Commons kind of thing. You also have like automatic voter registration. Basically, more democracy, good. Less democracy, bad. We should have more representation here. That should be the goal. And of course, you add in things like DC statehood, Puerto Rico, all them, those two things becoming states, that would be fantastic. These are the goals, or should be the goals of most people on the left, okay? Notice how none of that really involves needing a violent insurrection, okay? And I hope that as a result, we would get like social democracy, like soc dem type policies, and then we go from there based on what works and what doesn't work and what works best for the American people. That should be the overall goal, all right? Now, that said, I'm a little off track, all right? I'm a little off track, but let me not lose the plot, okay? But back to the call here. Now, on that call, officials warned lawmakers about sharing too much information with the press, saying that divulging specific dates, times, and countermeasures could aid organizers of their plots, which makes sense. Yeah, of course, that's why we don't have really a lot of details on what's going to happen, which we'll get it after. If this does happen, if these gets foiled, we will eventually be able to share that information. But right now, yeah, it totally makes sense, of course. Now, one member was explicit that these groups were trying to get journalists to report on the demonstrations. Quote, some of their main communications to organize these have been cut off, so they're purposely trying to get the media to report on this as a way to further disseminate information and to attract additional support for their attacks, this member said, which is, I guess, why it's a good thing to not actually divulge any of the details in order to, help that happen. All right. And look, you had 70,000 QAnon members get purged from Twitter. You had Parler that got offline. And so that did put a gigantic, crimp in their ability to be able to organize these types of attacks. Again, if you want to organize a protest, 100% fine. It's First Amendment rights, but it crosses the line when you get violent, obviously. And so here's the other thing, right? Now, the leaders of the Capitol Police, as I mentioned earlier, have been replaced, and several officers in the Capitol Police have also been arrested and charged and replaced because they took part in the first coup attempt. And now you have the National Guard that has been, mobilized. And so right now, there's a lot more defense than there was before. There are no surprises here. They're not going to get caught surprised again. In fact, Democrats were told the Capitol Police and the National Guard were preparing for potentially tens of thousands of armed protesters coming to Washington and were establishing rules of engagement for quote-unquote warfare. Warfare. Now they say, well, we don't plan to shoot anybody unless one of the rioters starts it first. But there could be exceptions. So understand how serious this situation really is. This is a powder keg. This is a very dangerous situation. And regardless of how exactly we got to this point, we're here now, and we should expect the worst. I mean, I don't want the worst to happen, but it feels like it very well could. And so now Capitol Police have established a new perimeter with fencing and razor wire. National Guard has been called in to help protect the Capitol and lawmakers. And that, of course, creates another issue here, the fact that our Capitol is now even more militarized than before. Oh, this is bad. I mean, I hate to see it. I really do. I don't like to see the seat of our government, protected by walls and, giant walls and barbed wire fencing and all this stuff. I mean, this sucks. This is horrible. And yet, I can kind of understand the necessity of it. Unfortunately, because you have a lot of people who have been used and brainwashed into believing the election was stolen from them and that their sacrifice might be required for Trump. Can you imagine? Can you imagine dying for Donald Trump? Well, people did. People did. 6 people have died as a result of all of this, right? And I hope that none of the worst situation comes to pass, but understand that this is serious. This is a tense situation, and I'm not happy about this. Now the article notes one more thing here, that another area of concern for members of Congress was the Trump administration's involvement in tamping down on an insurrection. Here's one member that told HuffPost, quote, I don't think anyone has confidence the folks at the Pentagon that may or may not have been needed for some of this, or the Department of Homeland Security, where we don't even know who's in charge, are going to be cooperative. Isn't that amazing? They can't even count on members of the government to be able to, and we've seen that from Capitol Police, on how some of them were just waving them right through. Some of the Capitol Police were actually members of the rioters themselves, flashing badges. Yeah. And other Republican officials who are coordinating or cheering this on the side, that's really dangerous. And they can't even trust other parts of the government. It's almost as if we shouldn't have been handing the Pentagon $780 billion without any strings. Weird. Especially during this administration, which has fomented violence. Now, one Democrat also on the call raised the issue of security for members coming from their residences to the Capitol. I don't understand why they can't just do remote at this point. I mean, we're doing remote everything else. Might as well not even take the security precautions. One member who spoke to HuffPost also said the Capitol Police did not have a satisfactory answer for that concern. Not good. And one of the lawmakers who spoke to HuffPost also said that members of Congress were all experiencing difficult reactions to the storming of the Capitol last week. Here's one quote. "Most of us are feeling that, but we're also feeling that we don't have time to indulge too much of it. That this is not about us, that it's about a job that's way bigger than us, and we're just going to suck it up and get through, and we'll talk about how nutty it is on the other side." So now I hope what doesn't get lost in all of this, which I'm sure will be, is how the Republican Party, not just Donald Trump, but how the Republican Party in general helped make this happen. So I hope now, and I say this with all the positivity in the world, that you get it through your goddamn thick skulls that you can't work with Republicans. Okay? You want Joe Biden keeps talking about healing, right? Oh, we're gonna come together as a nation, and we're gonna heal. We're gonna heal together. No, we're not. No, you can't. There's no healing with these people. Okay, keep that in mind. The two sides are not equal. They're not the same. And I hope Democrats and corporate media stop playing false equivalence. And that's the big problem. We have Republican congressmen who supported this, encouraged this, right-wing media that pushed this, and even Republican officials and police who are literally part of this on the ground. I didn't need anybody to tell me that from now on that the only difference of the party is, they just have slight disagreements. Not at all true. One is incredibly pro-violence. The other is not. And those are just facts. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.